Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ralph Brenner. I am actually from the US. I'll talk a little bit about my organization. I didn't bring any videos. I don't sing. I haven't been to Estonia, but now I know I'm going to go. Do I need a visa to get into Estonia? No? Okay, even better. My organization is the Committee for Happiness. We've just launched the Committee for Happiness, and it's a very new organization. It's very relevant not only for education, for children, but in my experience it transcends not only children, nursery through K-12, but into higher education. And what is happiness in your life as you go on into your career? All of you have some varying degree of happiness, unhappiness, and so our organization is really focused. Let me tell you how I actually got to be involved in happiness curriculum and how I got here. It's a very short journey, but my training is actually in IT. I worked at Microsoft. Well, my degree is in computer science. My home is in Chicago, Illinois. I moved to Seattle. I went to work at Microsoft, did a lot of hard work. I worked with some very smart, very wealthy people, and we worked very hard. I don't know that we were always happy, but we worked very hard and long hours for okay pay. And over time, I became involved in a curriculum that had to do with education in social emotional learning. And part of my IT team about 12 years ago was based in Bangalore. An offshoring team. I knew nothing about India except Indian food as we know it in the US. That was about it. So very quickly, I started to learn about Indian culture, people, education, the materials, and the challenges. It was very fascinating to me. And as I visited India in various parts, I got to meet children in schools, in every type of school, government school, some of the poorest schools, but with the most beautiful, wonderful faces and hungry to learn and experience education, and the teachers, and the hard jobs the teachers have, the hard jobs that you have. The materials that I worked on as a developer, as a programmer in IT, I started to read, and I started to learn about these things, about emotions, and managing your emotions, and empathy, and compassion, and gratitude, mindfulness, being in a meeting, and paying attention, giving your attention, not being distracted by your cell phone, and all of these other social media things that are tagging us for our time. And suddenly, I made a switch. I said, there's greater value in understanding the happiness in what you're doing than simply doing the same thing that you've been trained over and over. So as I learned more about subjects around social emotional learning, I got to travel, and I got to go to the materials that I was working on are used in over 70 countries. Probably there's some different countries that are represented here. Our materials are used there. They affect over 14 million children every year that range from nursery to level 12. And now the Committee for Happiness is reaching beyond that. We're partnered with the Delhi government in the recently announced happiness program that was just announced on July 9th, 1 month and 1 day ago. And with the blessing of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which was really a great honor, both to work with his organization and then also the respected leadership here in Delhi with the Director of Education, Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Mrs. Mithali Bhektar, and CM Manesh Mishoda. So As I've met the leadership, I will tell you the investment in happiness and why it should be important to your education system should be a really easy thing. If we give children a good start, then chances are they're going to be better performing students. They're going to treat each other better. They are going to be more respectful, less bullying, less anger. They have more time to focus on their studies. And we all know what parents want, what teachers want, what the administration of schools want are higher exam scores, right? Better performance, all of these things add up. But the life skills and happiness part of these are things that are also important. So recently I was asked, well, how much does this cost? If we invest in science, math, reading, languages, what are we taking away? So I did a study, and I looked at the cost of a happiness program. And this program we put together, it spanned 2 years, but the activities are all non-technical. So you don't need a cloud. You need people who can read and storytell and work with children and listen and help them develop these skills. Happiness isn't something that is just known. It's something we have to practice every day. And it gets easier. So I'll give you an example of how much does happiness cost. When we look at a school system, such any school system in Delhi, I took some numbers and I looked and found that for the cost of 60 rupees per child, that's less than what we would pay for a cup of coffee at your favorite coffee shop. I like going to cafe coffee day. And it's more costly for a cup of coffee than what it costs to invest in a child's happiness. And that happiness and that growth over a lifetime will be rewarded time and time again. So I encourage you, if your school, if your state, if your country is not looking at happiness, life skills, social emotional learning, you're really missing one segment. And helping these children, your citizens, and your people become better citizens and become happier. So what kind of challenge is this? I'll wrap up here. Last year, does anybody know where India ranks in terms of the United Nations ranking in terms of happiness and what that number is? Anyone want to guess? Okay, I'll say it. 133. The year before it was 122. So what does that say? We start a happiness program and then suddenly we're becoming less happy. But what happens with happiness programs and social emotional learning programs is as society, as a school system becomes more aware of issues around bullying and rage and a gender gap and emotions, mindfulness, they begin to talk about these and they begin to report them as incidents. So if you're a principal, you would say, we're doing all this work and what's happening? We're seeing more incidents. It's because we're becoming smarter. And the research says that when we become smarter, we report these things very naturally. And then about 1 year later, what happens is those incidents begin to drop off and begin to climb. And in year 2 through year 6, research evidence has shown that as a result of investments in social emotional learning and happiness, the academics, because we're not focusing on behavior and incidents in the classroom, the playground, or playfields, or on buses in transport to and from school, the academics increase between 6 and 9% per student on average, which is a pretty good investment for 60 rupees per student, would you not say? It's a pretty good return. So I'll leave you with that, and but before I go, I want to give a huge thanks to the gentleman who's on the phone, Kumarji. Sir, and at the time when I started this program, I started working with ELETS a couple conferences ago. I didn't know his last name. Anand in Hindi means what? Happy, right? Yes. So congratulations on your new promotion. He's been a tremendous advocate and help to us. And then also to Dr. Gupta, who is he here today? But Ravi Gupta, a very good friend and colleague, and thank you. And also our panelists, and thank you for coming so far as well. And thank you for being here.